If you don't know who he is, it's basically Blue White Lotus. Uh, he was the player that won the Showcase Challenge the day after I day 2'd in Toronto, in the Toronto RC. He basically took my exact list and played with it, and he won the whole thing. And he beat Spirits in the finals. I didn't, unfortunately. So here I was like, okay, I have Lotus Field. I'm gonna keep this. And he kind of just like breaks my back with turn 3 scam with discontinuity, and then yeah, as you can see, yeah, I when I saw this, I was like, what the hell? I didn't expect this at all. So I was like, okay, the game is pretty much over. There's no way I could kill this even with Emperor. So as you can see, I like 15 seconds or 20 seconds. Scoop. It's impossible to win. He even ends my turn. It's it's possible for me to win this. I was really surprised by this main board. I don't think it's good main board. And I think it's actually not that good because you have to rely too much on Lotus Field. And I can kind of already see like he had like an awkward mana base. So we'll talk about that actually in game 3. Um, so yeah, I'm sideboarding. I'm thinking, what do I take out against this mirror? I'm like, okay, Dream Trawler probably not that great because it has to resolve, and like I can still get discontinuity looped if I tap out and commit to it. I need something that's like hard, uh, really strong against the Dragon Lord. Jamoke is amazing because they can't discontinuity you anymore, right, on your turn. So resolves that is. This is like I'm on the play. If I was on the draw, I would have kept that. Uh, so this is a keep. It's slow, but I have the tools to slow down the game, and I decided to bottom the Teferi there because I have 4 copies of Teferi, right? I only have 2 copies of Ether Gust, and I know this guy plays Sylvan Scrying and like Chandra and all that. He plays a much more green focused list, so that's why I kept the Ether Gust. I was like, it's my only line of early interaction, and if he gets Lotus Field before me, I'm screwed, right? Because my hand is not that great, and I really need to like slow down the game. Here, I was actually thinking about countering it. So I was like thinking a bit, what kind of line can I do? I took a screenshot because I was like, oh, he's actually playing like the same cards as me, so he probably does like follow me in a sense. I don't know who this guy is though, and I'm still like, I said hi to him and he never answered, so like I didn't want to like intrude. I kind of wanted to like discuss with him like his thought process and everything. Never actually happened. Um. So yeah, like he's thinking for a while, and here he's like already there. I kind of like already knew he wanted to do something with his mana, but he didn't. I was thinking if it was a discontinuity. I feel like it was probably like a Shark Typhoon or something, just to like cycle. And here, this is the perfect play, right? It's very awkward for him to counter it, um, but because even if he doesn't counter it, I'm still happy with this. And so I know that that was my only line that I could have done because he has more mana than me, right? My only way to win this game now is to thought distortion because I have to play around Narset's reversal to a degree. I don't do it this turn. It was a bit too risky for me. So I was like, okay, I'll wait another turn. I drew Join to Exploration, so it helps me find a land. And because I get to find a land, I get to secure Thought Distortion with Dovin's Veto backup. If he has double Narset's Reversal, it is what it is. Like I can't do anything. My hand is too slow. I don't have Deluge. I don't have anything to outvalue him, right? So I knew for a fact I had to go for it next turn. So I'm just waiting. Let's see if he does anything. And thinks about it for a while, and I'm like, okay, let's copy my Lotus Field. And here, because he Boseju'd me, I knew in a sense that he didn't really have much in his hand. You don't Boseju someone like that aggressively unless you're really scared of the open mana, right? Because Boseju, you know, you're you could play as a land, you could save it, or you could save it for like a Hall of Storm chance. Because in game two, this Boseiju is really important for Hall of Storm chance because that's one of the ways you die. So him being very aggressive on this, I was much more confident about Thought Distortion here. So I didn't really think about it. I was just like, okay, let's do it. And um, he thinks about it. I'm like, okay. Because he thought about it, I was like, okay, he probably doesn't have the Narset's reversal, right? Like anyone that has it, they immediately do it. There's no way you think about it, right? And there's no way you cycle this if you already have it. So obviously he's looking to dig, and he couldn't find it. So he placed the Wandering Emperor. I countered this because I was like, okay, the only line I can do to lose this game now is if he outraces me. So I end up countering it. I tap out myself, but obviously he doesn't have that many cards left, so it's all good there. And from there, it's pretty straightforward. I Ether Gust that. He puts it on the bottom because he knows I'm going to start attacking with Halls eventually, and he can't block the Hall with the Dragon Lord. So he kind of like just needs to find a way out, like it's Fairy or something. I believe yeah, so here, this is, I keep going because I know he has to block this, right? So I keep going for the kill. And from here, it's pretty straightforward. I just have to keep pressuring with Hall of Storm Giants. This is kind of like what I was saying, right? Of why he should have saved. Not he should have saved, but because he didn't save the Boseiju, I knew his hand was not that strong to deal with, for example, Thought Distortion. So it's kind of like those small lines that you can like really think about. Okay, why did my opponent do this? And usually it's because they don't have a specific answer for what they think you're going to do, right? So that's kind of like, okay, I have to go for the Thought Distortion. Found the Boseiju from the Sylvan Scrying. Doesn't really matter. I still have already a lot of pressure because of Castle Ardenvale. So he needs to find two things, right? Here, I hold it like a counter spell. It gets countered. It ends up ending my own turn. I'm like, okay, I guess. But he doesn't find anything off of it. So I end up finding that, and I make a 1/1. I outvalue him. So here, if he had this continuity there's no way he would have waited for me to draw my card. There's no way he would have risked it being like for example, a Sharp Typhoon or like a Wandering Emperor, because I left it on top, right? So he has to kind of like think, okay, how does he die, right? By these tokens. So if I put something on top, it's very likely that it was probably something that kills him. Obviously, it wasn't. But he has to play around it. So he would have, if he had this continuity, he would have done it on my upkeep because there's no reason for him to draw my card. Because if I just attack, he's forced to discontinuity, and then I hold up like Wandering Emperor or the Shark Typhoon on his end step, like it's finished, right? So that's kind of how like because he didn't do it on my upkeep, that one card definitely wasn't a discontinuity. It's all like these subtle lines, right? That how they play their hand, you can really tell like what they have in their hand or what they don't. But this at the same time comes with a lot of experience, right? You have to know the enemy's deck just as well as obviously in this case situation I know my own deck. But I kind of show this knowledge against Mono Green too, for example, against Rakdos Sacrifice and all that. So we get to explain that later. Game 3, we both have a very normal blue-white start, but my hand is better, right? Because I have a lot of end step, do my own thing kind of thing here. So against the mirror, what I like to emphasize is your Lotus Field, you never tap out for this unless you can hold like a veto backup. So at best, 99% of the time, you're doing this turn 5, right? So you can sack 2 lands and you can hold up veto. Because you cannot expose yourself, especially after side knowing that they have 4 vetoes. They have a bunch of answers for your discontinuity or your Proctor, for example. And if you risk tapping out and then they play like a Wandering Emperor on their turn or something like that, and you have no answer, the game's finished, right? So you have to still treat it very much like a blue-white mirror. after sideboard. And the reason for that is that's why I don't like Chandra and all that. So the reason why I don't like Chandra and Nifmizet is you rely too much on your Lotus Field. And after sideboard, it's kind of difficult to reliably get your Lotus Field. Like, that's why I don't like playing off colors that depend on Lotus Field, because if you don't get Lotus Field, you just lose the game. Like, it's just a dead card in your hand. Sure, it's an explosive card if you can get it, but more often than not, it's not going to do anything. Right? Like already here, I'm putting tons of regular blue-white pressure. This is the most obvious telltale sign that I have to counter it. Right? He never played a Lotus Field, and now he's Sylvan Scrying. If I let this happen, I lose this game probably. Just because of like I don't have Thespian Stage, he does. He can copy. He's gonna outmana me. He can fight the spells much better than I can. And because I was able to get mine, I have to keep this mana advantage. The blue-white Lotus mirror is not very different from the regular blue-white control mirror. It's like who can, get the most mana, who can get the most lands while still maintaining a bit of pressure on the board slowly. That's usually the winner, right? And you can see by how I play this, it's very similar to regular blue-white. I'm just going draw go, make my land drops, ramp, get some tempo and all that. Okay, so remember, most of you probably already know this, but never Narset's Reversal a Deluge, because of the way Deluge is worded, you'll see 0 cards, right? Because it says where X is the amount of mana spent to cast a spell, because it's a copy of it, and you spend 0 mana, you're looking at 0 cards, and you don't get any cards. So you never Narset's Reversal this. You can't. So that's one minor thing, right? And don't make that mistake ever. It's very important. It would be kind of crushing to see that. Here, I'm very confident. I have 8 mana, and I can hold up discontinuity in Narset's Reversal. And I know slowly he's going to lose, right? Because I have the Lotus Field advantage. So slowly, I'm just going to Memory Deluge. I'm going to outvalue him. I have more mana than him. He's going to get slowly out-pressured by the board as well. So he's on a clock now, right? I'm the aggressor in this situation. So I just have to protect my board. I just have to protect this game state. And that's exactly what I do. I don't tap out. I don't do anything. Because he's on the other side of it. So what happens if someone spell quellers a Deluge? What happens is if that's Deluge... if that spell queller dies, for example, and that Deluge gets casted, you still look at 0. So, yeah, spell queller is basically like a 2-for-1 for Deluge. Yeah, so here he has to go for it, right? Like he can't. His hand is probably like Chandra, to be honest, or like a Niv Mizzet or something. But because he doesn't have the Lotus Field, right? Card is useless. While I can just play like I'm regular blue-white. And so he thinks about it, he vetoes. And this is just game over, right? I just Narset's Reversal my discontinuity to end the turn. And I play my Teferi, and he quickly says GG. There were kind of a lot of intricate things there, but other than that, it was kind of straightforward. Then we have round 2. This was against Ractal Sacrifice, I think. Yeah, it was against Ractal Sacrifice. Was this one of my longest games? I'm trying to think. I played against. Yes, this was the longest game. So, game 1, right? I play as if I'm regular blue-white. I always foretell this. You never play this first because they have Fatal Push. They have whatchamacallit, that 1 mana claim or whatever, steal it. So you always play this, and because I only have 1 Doomscar as my board wipe, and he probably knows it's Doomscar, he's just forced to play around this, right? Because even if he thought seizes me, this is protected. But I think one of the mistakes he probably could have done, but it's kind of like a gamble, because he probably knows I play 28 lands, he probably should have taken my Joint Exploration. He takes the Proctor instead to protect against the combo. Obviously, you see I didn't draw a land here, right? So because he didn't take that, I get to, dig and naturally get my land drops, right? So I put that on top. I get the Castle Ardenvale, and next turn I plan to, because I drew Farewell, I plan to just Lotus Field Discontinuity, right? And now it's like, this game is basically mine. He doesn't have enough pressure on the board because of Doomscar. He slowed himself down, right? And he's trying to play more value oriented, but he doesn't know I drew the Farewell, so he's trying to bait the Doomscar, but you know, I have the Farewell in the end, and it's pretty game from here. Doesn't matter what he does. He has one card left in hand. I have a Deluge. I have a Wandering Emperor. I still have the Foretold Doomscar, right? So from here, yeah, he plays Bayab Devil. Because this is the best card in Rakdos Sack, I have no problems playing the Doomscar, right? At this point, the only way for me to lose is, for example, he does like Mayhem Devil twice into like the Nuts or something, like some unbelievable line that I can't think about. But it's just not worth the risk if he has like Double Devil into like Deadly Dispute and like stuff like that. It's just like crazy. And because I'm already so hard on card advantage that it's fine doing 1-for-1 trades to preserve your life, even if your life pool is already healthy. So then, yeah, we have game two. Game two was actually really close, and I almost won. But because I was on the draw, if I was on the play, I would have won this. But because I was on the draw, like it just didn't convert. We're going to see that very soon. So he mulligans to 6. He has a pretty slow start, but this can be a fast start depending on what he has. Yeah, he has the Cauldron Familiar. So here, I didn't want to risk playing my Proctor and then getting like pushed or something. So because I don't have another line of cheating this in, right? If I had Discontinuity or another Proctor, I definitely would have played it. But because I had to rely so much on the Proctor itself, there was no reason for me to risk it turn 2. I take a bit more damage. But then he takes probably, I'm pretty sure he takes my Farewell here. It's not that bad. And so I'm like, okay, probably the correct play here for me was I end up playing Teferi here, right? And I plus, so I can copy Thespian Stage and stuff like that. And he really, yeah, he kills my Teferi. And he doesn't kill my Teferi. All right, he ignored my Teferi. Yeah, he ignored my Teferi, and I just, I drew all my Teferis. That was pretty bad. So I just, do the line. So this was like, okay. I drew Doomscar. Sure, it's great in this board, but I'm at 8, and even if I tap out and I don't find something, I can still die, right? Because I drew a land, I was like, I can't do anything, right? I have to Doomscar this, and I'm gonna try to find the discontinuity first. That's my line to extend this game without having to Doomscar. Didn't find it, so it is what it is. And I untap. Obviously, him being with one card left, he doesn't play around anything. Just goes for it. I'm representing Wandering Emperor, even though I don't have it, right? But he doesn't care, right? Like that's his only way to win against this board, so he goes for it. And now I'm like, okay, I'm dead here. My line that I had to get was double Emperor somehow. That would have saved me, or like, this drawing a March, for example, would have saved me. Because I end up plussing this, right? And I name Discontinuity. Why did I name Discontinuity? I don't even know why I named Discontinuity. Oh, that's a misplay. Yeah, no. So the line here was, yeah, this 100% should have named Wandering Emperor because I need to gain life, right? Because he can do this cat combo at instant speed. Discontinuity doesn't do anything because he could just play around it. And I should have named it. I actually would have found one. And then I would have found the second one. So that's a misplay on my part. I would have had 2 avenues to gain life, right? Because what would have been able to happen was, let's say I named instead of Discontinuity the Emperor, and I found both Emperors. I would have been in a, I wouldn't say winning position, but I wouldn't have died next turn, right? So I have three untaps, right? So let's say I had two emperors in my hand. Here, I basically, yeah, he does this, you know. Um, Basically, what he does, I'm at one. I play emperor, my first emperor, and I exile his token, right? I go to four. I go to three. I'm not dead. Um, he has to attack to kill me, right? If I had that second emperor, I exile this one, and I'm not dead, right? The most he does is two, because let's say even if he sacks in response, I go to one. Um, and here I was like thinking of a line I could have done differently, and because I messed this up, I lose. Because he knows, like, yeah, he has the damage to kill me. I don't have another emperor. But even if, let's say, like, he has to tap out for this, right? It's very unlikely he has like a one mana, kill. I play a pause this. I play a for fun Lotus Control in Historic with Fatal Wishes and a Wish board. How do you feel about that for specific cards where you need specific cards? Um, yeah. So here, like, I actually was dead anyways. Now that I think about it, so it doesn't really matter. But you can kind of see, like, that was a misplay in a sense because I wasn't playing to my outs. I was kind of playing badly. I should have named Emperor there, because that was my only out. Obviously, this situation kills me regardless, but yeah, it just goes to show that even I can make suboptimal lines. Um, uh, Fae of Wishes. I don't know how I feel about that card. Because I can't say like the mana doesn't support it because it does. But I'm not sure like what cards you really want to take from your sideboard. Yeah, so this is a keep. I don't have the lowest combo right, but I have a very strong slow hand. Here I was debating, because I only had three lands, and I didn't want to risk missing a land drop. If I get Thought Seized here, and he takes this land, and I don't draw a land, I did want to take the chance on the play. Obviously, knowing that I drew this now, the better play was to play the Sparrows and then hold up Jwari. But because I didn't want to risk missing my land drop, I had to take a very awkward line. Um, I ended up hitting all my land drops. So, here's like, do I play this? I probably do play this, right? And oh, I play that. Oh yeah, because I played this because I wanted to play Tamio for sure the next turn. I if he doesn't play another creature, I can probably just exile my Ondu, get rid of this, and then start clean, right? Plays the Mayhem Devil, that I have to really remove, right? Because that's the strongest card in the deck. I'm willing to take out my Ondu for this, exile, be efficient, and now with Tamio, there's two benefits, right? I'm Thoughtseize proof, I'm discard proof, I'm sacrificed proof, and and she has very high loyalty, right? So in a sense, I kind of have like 23 HP, and I get to dig for cards. Don't end up finding Teferi. I find three lands on a farewell, but the fact that he now has to respect Tamio is already a very good sign, right? And here I'm like, okay, I can minus and get immediate value, but then I'm gonna take a 6 and go to 11. In my opinion, I didn't think this was worth it. If this goes to 4, he still has to attack with both, right, to kill it. He's not going to attack with one and leave it at 1. He's going to attack with both. So I technically gained 6 life by doing this, right? And here I'm like, okay, the best way for me to slow him down too is if I get Wandering Emperor. So the best card for me here, this is kind of what I was saying before, like you play to your outs. I named Wandering Emperor. I obviously got it. I got pretty lucky there. Um, it is still technically a 3 of, so like my chances weren't very low. But this was already huge, right? Because now he has to commit so much to the board to get this, and I got to just keep stalling and preserve my life total. And that's really just what you need to do against Rakdos Sacrifice as much as possible in the early stages. And here, I have discontinuity and I have Lotus Field, but I don't go for the combo because there's no way for me to take advantage of my combo. When he attacked with Hive, he exiled my Deluge. So, like, even if I get a bunch of mana, it doesn't really do anything for me, right? So I treat it as a counter spell instead in this game state, which I think is the right thing to do, which you're going to see later, actually, why that is the case. Start thinking about it. Okay. I just let my Emperor die. And, I'm still holding this up, right? And I'm at 17. I'm like, okay, I could wait. If I find a Teferi here, it's huge. If I find anything, that has card advantage, that's all I really need, right? So I'm really just, I'm happy if the board is stalled. And he goes for the attack, right? And here I'm like, okay, I need to slow down this pressure. So I activate Hull. And for some reason, this guy still kept in push. Either he's big brain or he thinks like Proctor can be killed in response, like a Lotus Field, but he can't. Or maybe he just has that many dead cards in the sideboard that he can't take them all out. So yeah, I'm not sure. It depends really on his list, but I really didn't expect a push there. So after he pushed it, I was like, okay, his hand is probably another removal spell or something. So he goes for it again, and I'm like, okay, I can't really block this, but I take 3. I go to 11. I'm still at a very healthy life total for what the turn is, right? And here I'm like, okay, if I ever get an opportunity to attack with Den of the Bugbear, right now I really don't. I'll do it. So obviously he goes for it again, and I'm like, okay, this is getting more and more annoying. So I was about to Boseiju this, but then I realized if I Boseiju'd, I can't activate Hall, so it was better for me to wait. He exiles a card from my graveyard, but I don't really care, right? I don't really use my graveyard that much, so that's fine. And yeah, I still get to hold up this continuity if it's necessary. And now I'm just thinking like, okay, if I play Lotus Field here, do I have enough mana to still cast this continuity? And I actually did. So that's exactly what I do. Because I know I can't take this hit, for example, if he goes like Den of the Bugbear, Blood Tithe Harvester, I can't activate Hall to protect myself, right? So I immediately do discontinuity because I know at the upkeep, can't do anything. He's not going to draw a card, and it's basically like an explorer in the sense. I get to have an extra turn, and I get to really find something with the all the mana that I have. That's kind of like the general rule you want to do if you know you're going to. If you can't take the hit, you might as well discontinuity on the upkeep. So yeah, that moving on. Really find a farewell, but it's pretty worthless to be honest. And I just intend on cycling at the end of turn to find something. And he keeps attacking me, right? Like, I'm getting annoyed at this point. I'm like, getting annoying. He decides to swing with the Blood Tithe. He knows that I can block with the Hull. But because it costs so much mana, he says, it's worth it. I lose my turn. I don't get to deluge. I don't get to find anything. But here, because this might have been a misplay, but I didn't want to die to a push again. Maybe I was playing around it too hard. I don't think he had a push in the end, but I really didn't want to play around push. And I figured if he actually had push, I could activate my other Den of the Bugbear. So this is gonna die immediately. So maybe he did have push actually. Now that I think about it, so that's how I do it. And I just, I'm willing to take a trade with my lands. And he deadly disputes, whatnot, with his Witch's Oven, and and here I find a discontinuity, right? And I'm like super happy with that because now I get to hold up Hall and I get to hold up discontinuity for anything that's troublesome. and he actually finds a Mayhem though. This is like the most broken card against us, right? So I immediately say no, I can't let that happen. Obviously, top deck like a beast. Best card in the game against the Ractal Sacrifice, and you're going to see that very quickly why. Um, he just can't deal with the life gain, right? Because I have Hall of Storm Giants blocking him from actually killing me, and I now drew a March. I don't play my land here. The reason why is because I need to have a guaranteed way of protecting Dreamtrawler. If I play my land here and he does like double Thoughtseize into a kill spell, I'm dead, right? This is my only way out of winning this game, and I know that. So here he duresses me, right? And so the line I take is I'm like, okay, might as well use all my mana efficiently. I exile this, and I immediately discard my Farewell to give it hexproof. So that way I know he can't target it for this turn. Probably didn't have a removal spell, honestly, for this anyways. But if he had like a Furnace Rings, for example, that's what saves it. I don't have to discard Lotus Field for it. I can save it for another turn. So he goes for the attack. He's like, okay, the only way to beat me now is to race me, right? And I'm like, okay, I'm kind of chilling. I get basically the nuts, and I pump my guy. And here, now that I think about it, this might have been too aggressive because I did this line. I kind of was put in a position where I want to protect this, but it didn't work out. No, it worked out. Sorry, because he ended up playing a Mayhem Devil, and I have to end the turn there. There's no way I let this pass, especially with that Fable coming around next turn. It's not gonna happen, right? If he has double Mayhem Devil, he can actually kill me with all the sacrifice that he has. So that's obviously he's like, okay, yeah, come on, 4 dogs discontinuity and 30 cards is so sick. But I don't think this guy realized he literally saw all his Mayhem Devils as well in 30 cards. So, like, we have the same odds kind of thing. But yeah, so here, the reason why I minus that, right, is because I cannot take my way of losing is like a double Mayhem Devil into like so much value into like I've seen Rakdos Sacrifice do ridiculous amounts of damage with 2 Mayhem Devils, right? So even if my Teferi dies here, I still have the Dream Trawler, and he has one more turn to live. So I'm very happy with this. In this current situation, my Teferi dies, but at least he didn't get double Mayhem Devil like I thought he would. If I didn't minus, there was no reason for me to really plus because I was already in a very good situation with Dream Trawler. So you're kind of just playing to, when you're in a winning position, you switch your mentality to a degree to like, okay, how can I lose this game, right? And you try to play your best to stop that from happening, because you will naturally win if you're already in a winning position. So you just have to play around it. And you kind of see here, like, we're both very low on time. This was the first time in a long time that I actually went like under 5 minutes. Usually most of my games are like, I still have like 15 minutes left on the clock. But this was actually a really long game because you can see like it was like there was so much back and forth, and the Dream Trawler honestly is what really saved me from this game. If I didn't have the Dream Trawler, I was finished. Right? He had so much value on the board. I just was able to ignore it. And yeah, here he does the double sack trick to kill my samurai, so I can't block. And it doesn't really matter though, because I don't want to tap out here. There was a line to attack on my hall. I was too scared, and I end up attacking that because I was like, okay, I can't one turn hit him, and he's gonna gain 4 life a turn if I don't kill his thing, and I'm still gaining life, and I could still use this to block. I felt I was still in a very winning position, even if I don't go for the kill next turn. I can create jump blockers. I draw the Teferi, which is obviously very good, and from here, it's very hard for me to lose this game. But here, I actually go for him, right? Because now gaining 2 life is not that big of a deal, especially now that I have a way to pump Dream Trawler. And, I'm going to play a Proctor. Uh, and from here, 27-4, you can kind of see this game is kind of sealed. So we can fast forward this. Um, but this was actually like, I feel like this match was. I played very well in this match, but I feel like it was very easy for me to lose this match if I went too aggressive or if I didn't use my discontinuities efficiently as a counter spell, for example, right? Because if I used it to ramp, you kind of saw there, right? Like I was kind of drawing nothing. Even with my Dream Trawler, I wasn't really drawing anything great with it. Um, so if I didn't take the lines I specifically took, I probably would have lost that. And then, I'm 2-0, I'm off to a great start. And I think this is where like the tiredness kind of really kicks in after that long game. I didn't really have a time to, refresh and just like, calm down. So you can see here I have a very strong hand against creativity. I'm more than happy to play Drago. I'm saving my discontinuities, right? Because it's one of the best spells against him. And I have Thespian stage. There's no real need for me to discontinuity, right? And I'm ready. I'm very happy to just play regular blue white. Um, my fatal mistake in this matchup though was I didn't think he was on the worm Xenagos combo, and that's actually what kills me. But thinking ahead, thinking back, like content. How do you feel about dress? How do you feel about dress down main in modern blue white? Dress down's amazing. It's like a 2 or 3 of in the main, and then put the rest in the side. Content creation question: how do you feel when you have quite a few people watching but nobody's saying anything? I mean, if you have no, I don't really care. I know most of you are watching to actually learn. You don't have to be saying anything. It's kind of like a class, right? If the teacher is speaking, most of the time you just want to absorb the information. So I find it kind of to be like the same thing. I don't necessarily need an interactive chat because I know most of you are paying attention. Yeah, we are all too concentrated listening. Yeah, that's what I assume. So here, I should have realized this was regular, worm creativity combo because of the big score. I think because I was so tired, I wasn't really putting the effort to think. And looking back, I really wasn't. I was like not playing very well, and it really showed. And you guys are going to see very quickly um, how that shows, right? Because this is a winning position, right? There's no way I lose this game if I play perfectly. I have more mana than him. I have the instant speed. I have everything to continue this value train going, and I just play like a fool. And you're going to see right here where I go, okay, I can't die next turn, right? I'm like, okay, I'm gonna save my Proctor. If it's Gear Hulk version, he has to pay 2. He doesn't have a Magmos Opus in the graveyard. If it's a Traxa version, he gets a bunch of cards, but I can still outvalue him with this type of hand. So I go for this, but there's really no reason for me to go for this Emperor and save my Proctor. It's not a winning line, and for some reason, like, like even if he kills this, it's a 1-for-1, right? And I still have the eventual farewell, and then like this happened, and I realized I'm such an idiot. Like there was no reason for me to take that line because it's not like I would have died to the mites anyways, right? I could have always done on his end step, make a bunch of samurais and block them. So there was really no reason for me to take that line. Because of that, I kind of throw game 2 in, but I multi 5 in the next game. But the thing I want to get at is let's get this man a sub button at least. Yeah, I just started, so I'm gonna get it very soon. But the only requirement left is that I have to stream like 3 more days, and then I can apply for it. So that's actually like really nice to hear. I'm like way above the like viewer threshold that I need or something like that. So all I have to do is put in the time continuously streaming. So one mentality that I really want to mention is because I misplayed game one, the way to really improve as a player is, sure, I didn't get lucky with these hands game two, and I ultimately lose this very easily on a multi five. Um, but I should have never lost that game one, right? So at least the way I think about it is because I should have never lost that game one because of my brutal misplay. I don't deserve a second chance to come back from this game. Because if both players are playing perfectly, the first person to make a mistake is usually the one who loses, and I don't deserve to win this, even if I play perfectly in the next two, because he didn't play poorly at all, right? Uh, Lost to Rakdos Sack in my RCQ yesterday. Learned a few things. So this is like kind of like we could kind of skip this. I had the answer to the Fable, and for some reason I just F6 through his turn, like a complete like idiot, and this puts me in an awkward situation. I don't hit my fourth land either, so kind of skip. I'm not seeing my fourth land, and eventually he gets the Hold Breaker Horror. Yeah, and can't answer. So the game is quickly lost. I'm not sad that I lost this game though, because I should have really won game one, right? And whenever you're playing Blue White Lotus, you have to still remember it's a control deck, and a lot of times you can kind of identify where you could have played better. And if that's actually the case, you can't blame the game on the loss that you got. You have to really like just humble yourself. You have to really just accept that you lost and just try to remember it for future games, because that's the only way to really improve. Right? Everyone knows, in a sense, that Magic has an element of luck. Um, but your best way of winning is to try to remove that luck factor as much as possible, and that's just by playing as well as you can. So we can just I lost to Rakdos Sack in my RCQ yesterday. Learned a few things from the last game that would have made the difference. Opponent kept fatal pushes like a sicko and killed my all. Yeah, yeah. Like keeping fatal push. Um, I know some people do that if they really don't have enough sideboard cards to bring in. So that could have just been why, right? And yeah, I lose that game pretty quickly. And this was probably this game. I was like, okay, I'm through. I'm 2-1, but this one I'm against mono green, and I was pretty confident going into this. Obviously, this hand is no land, so I mulligan this. And this I should have mulled. Because I was on the draw. Oh no, I did mull. Yeah, so because I was on the draw, I mulliganed to 5. And it's simply because my hand was too slow last time, and there was no reliable way of me getting to turn uh, turn 6 naturally, right? So I had to kind of rely on luck here. I had to keep this. I got the Lotus Field. I was like, okay, there's 8 ways to scam it in, and if I get a Lotus Field, I'm good, right? The problem is, I don't have many cards in my hand, so I can't really fight if he goes like Value Town on me, and he goes Storm the Festival. God, that's a storm, and thinks about it for a while, and he gets Cavalier and Kiora, so that's already a lot of pressure, and he gets the early Karn. That early Karn really hurts, right? Because now he plays Damping Sphere, and I just cannot. My whole plan to win this game was kind of foiled, right? You can say it was because of the multi 5, but it's just really awkward now because this all also enters tapped. I can't deluge to try to find more lands, so I'm like kind of like just stuck in this like awkward situation where I have to attack and really try to kill the Karn, but there's no way I'm killing the Karn. But I can't block the Cavalier anyways. So he finds the right line and he animates his Damping Sphere, activates Lair, and he kills me for 12. This hand was just like, kind of too fast for me, and that Karn was what sealed the game. Obviously, game one is very losable against Mono Green because of how they have much more you can't really counter anything game one, right? So like you kind of just have to rely on them not having the absolute nuts. But after side, mono green becomes a very easy matchup. Um, I end up losing this match, which was kind of disappointing for me because this was my first loss against mono green in like 3 months. I'm legit like 30 wins, one loss against it. Uh, with today being my first loss, but he was a very good player to be fair. And you're gonna see that game three. Game two is kind of like a non-game because I had the straight nuts, and he can't really do anything against the hand that I have. Um, so here, I think about it for a bit, and I'm like, okay, how do I lose this game, right? Because now I'm in a winning position. Um, there's really no way I can lose this game if I just maintain the board state, right? So that's why I take the proactive line of just marching this troll. Usually I don't do that, but because I'm scared of kind of like Nykthos tons of devotion mana into Storm or something like that, even though I have the answer, I don't want to necessarily use it because I know I'm like one turn away from really just putting a lot of pressure with Wandering Emperor and holding up like, you know, a bunch of interaction. So I really just want to stop that from happening. I don't think he had the Nykthos in the end, anyways. But it didn't really hurt me to do it on my main phase, right? Just to really slow him down. And here, obviously, he didn't have the Nykthos, so I knew he didn't have the Nykthos because there's no way he attacks there if he did. Because he knows that if I have Wandering Emperor, his devotion's gone, right? But because he attacked there, it kind of told me that his line to win this game was to kill me and not like try to value me with Karn and all that. And it really kind of showed by the way he was playing. So after he did that, I kind of knew, okay, yeah, I'm kind of in the driver's seat. There's not really much I can really care about, and so I'm much more relaxed on how I want to use my March now. I don't care about his devotion anymore because I know he doesn't have a Nykthos. Obviously, he could draw one, but you can't really play around that, right? If you top deck one, you top deck one. You have to play with what's in your hand and what's best in your hand right now. So here I hold up the finale, of course. That's fine. That's like, I'm very happy with that line because I know there's not much you can do. I flash back to Luge here to find more lands. I know I could have copied this, but I know I didn't have enough mana for finale this turn anyways. I was missing one and I had an untapped land. I had to get an untapped land to finale for 10. So I felt it was just better to dig for like a discontinuity or a Teferi just to really seal the game because I don't need finale in this situation to really win. I'm already in a winning position, so I have to play as if I'm trying not to lose. That's I think the best advice I can give. If you're in a winning position, you kind of shift your mentality a bit. It's not like what is your out. It's how can you lose now, and you try your best to stop that, right? So you kind of have to identify in a specific game whether you're the aggressor or you're the defender, and I was the aggressor there. Yeah, so here, as you can see, I'm playing Strict Proctor Tribal. And I keep this because Proctor is obviously really good, and I have the Farewell. So I'm confident enough that I can naturally get to turn 6 without too much difficulty because of the Proctors. And of course, I draw like a champ the Lotus Field, and that's really nice. I hold up the Ether Gust here because I'm scared of like a Storm the Festival because that's kind of like the way he can win this game. He plays the Ult Anissa. I'm like, okay, I can't really do about that. Phase 2, and here I'm like, okay, I can force him to really be awkward with his mana and make him see one less card. So that's why I Ether Gust the Cura. I know he's gonna get back to Cura probably, but because I plan to Farewell next turn, I'm like, okay, why not? But now I drew another Lotus Field. So I'm like, huh, I can stall this game even more now. And I take the line to reduce his devotion. I want to be ahead in mana, or at least break even. So I want to get rid of his devotion as much as possible so he can't do this shenanigans. I don't see the reason to play the Lotus Field because then I can't get rid of the Then I can't double spell, right? I have to either march or I have to play Proctor. And if I march, one Proctor might not be enough given the amount of devotion he actually has, right? And I'm like, okay, because I only have one farewell, that's my only out. I can't use it so liberally. I have to really try to bait it out. And he gets this, and I'm like, okay, yeah, it's. I'm very happy that I did bait it out, right? Because he still had enough mana to naturally um, storm the festival. So I'm like here, like, okay, it's fine. You know, I'm gonna attack. I'm gonna farewell anyways. Exile everything, and I'm good, right? There is. It's very hard for me to lose this game, even with a Karn on the board, and it's hard, but it's losable if I don't play perfectly. And because I didn't play perfectly, you guys are gonna see why I lose. Um, I'm like, I don't really care about this. Damping Sphere slows him down, and now I'm at a point where I'm perfectly happy with playing regular blue white, right? I just want to kill his planeswalkers, control the board, and uh, because I know Damping Sphere is on the board, I know he cannot outvalue me to a degree. He has to play very slowly as well, and I'm fine with that because over time, I'm going to be the one that can actually win, um, theoretically. I have more card advantage. I have more ways of digging through my deck. I have, Teferi, and I have answers to the Damping Sphere itself, right? So here I'm like, okay, he blocks, I bait, I play Wandering Emperor to kill the Transmogrifying Wand, and he's kind of like in an awkward position, right? He plays the Cavalier. I'm like, okay, that's completely fine. I still get to kill. Um, and here he minuses with the Karn. I don't remember what he gets though. I think he gets. Oh, he gets Cityscape Leveler. Okay, which is actually relevant. He gets. No, he gets Pithing Needle. How do you get Pithing Needle? Okay, he got Pithing Needle because he identified that my out is really Teferi because I can minus the Pithing Needle. Um, and it is true. But then, like, I probably would have named Emperor there because you kind of have to play with what's on the board. You can't play ahead. Um, so yeah, that might have been like a different play on his part. I end up finding the Lelouch here, but I can still pressure, and I obviously try to go for the Karn. There was an argument to attack with the Hall here, but I knew he was going to block with the Pithing Needle if I did, and it's not like I have a Teferi in my hand anyways. I really have to dig for something, and here he plays Cityscape Leveler. This is where the misplays start happening. It's really crushing that I lost this game, because I had this game in my hands, and I knew this the minute I casted this Deluge that I just had to play very well, and there weren't many lines to make me lose this game, and you're going to see why. So here I'm like, okay, I'm in a difficult situation, but all I need is like, discontinuity to fairies, a way to slow down the game and really try to secure my mana advantage. And here I'm like, this was the misplay. Because he went to attacks, right? There's no reason for me to hold up Dovin's veto here. So the very different line that I should have done was even if he vetoes, right? Even if he plays Karn this game or he plays Storm, I can't counter it because I'm the defender in this situation. I have to find the answer now. So I really need to find it. So before I declare my blocks, the best line of play was to flashback Deluge. So I can see more information, I can see what I have to do, and I can see what the answer is for the cityscape. Because I didn't do that, I end up taking 8, which is actually really relevant. I should have blocked with the Samurai. And you're going to see why as soon as I flash back. I flash back here. And I completely forgot as well, which is on me, that Cityscape Leveler has an Unearth. So I'm like, okay, I found the Undo, which answers everything on the board. But he has a Lair of the Hydra. So I have to, not die to this Lair of the Hydra either. So I don't take the Teferi. I take the Ondu and the Boseiju. Because I know I have another Deluge, and I have a high chance of really just, recycling here. But you see how I'm at 8, and I forgot that the Cityscape was 8 power and had Unearth. If I blocked with that Samurai, I wouldn't have died here. And you're going to see. There was no reason for me to keep the Samurai because it's not like I can attack it anyways, right? I could never kill that Kiora. So it was just kind of like a really bad play on my part. And, I end up doing what is the best line in this situation. But because I didn't block, I was in a losing position. If I blocked, I would have been at 2. And that would have actually probably made me win the game because now I have so much mana at my disposal with everything gone, and I have a Deluge with flashback, right? And I get to Boseiju that lair, so he has to, there's not. The problem is when I was thinking about this game, I wasn't, I wasn't thinking as I usually did, and you can see here because I didn't block with the Samurai, I'm dead, and once I realized that, I was like, wow, that is really sad to lose my first match against Mono Green in like months to this. Because ultimately this was my fault, right? Like when you look at this game, because I didn't block with that Samurai, I don't get that second chance. So, I'm like, okay, what would I have drawn from the Deluge? Let's say I blocked. And I cut it. But what I actually would have seen, the fourth card was discontinuity. So you guys can kind of see where that game probably would have went if I made the correct line. And then this is the last one. And I was so tired at this point that I didn't even bother looking up what deck he was playing. So I just kept this. I was like, screw it. He's on mono green. This hand is horrible against mono green. And if I knew he was on mono green, I probably would have mulliganed, right? Because I don't have any lines of significant interaction. Doomscar doesn't do anything against mono green because of Troll. And Tamio's kind of worthless against mono green. I don't have Farewell. I don't have any Proctor. I don't have a way to cheat in Lotus Field to keep up with his mana. So already I see turn 1 Elf and I'm like, okay, this is a losing game. I notice, though, he kind of plays kind of slowly. As you can see, his clock is already going down pretty quickly versus my 24 minutes. So I'm like, okay, maybe I can actually stall this game. And, because MTGO is kind of like a chess clock, you use the time to your advantage. So I make the decision very early on to not concede this game, even though I know I'm already in a very losing position. Is this going to be on your YouTube channel? Yes, it will be. It will be, even though I'm not very active on YouTube. But it's also going to be on the Twitch VODs, right? Like it's automatically saved once I finish my stream. So either or, whichever way you want to watch it. I'm also going to post it on Patreon. So yeah, we can, as I can just keep on talking and rambling about other things while you watch this heavily stalled game. I'm just like stalling. I know I lost this game. If it was a regular game on paper, you 100% keep concede in this situation, right? Because I don't have Lotus Field. I have no way of farewelling the board. This is losing. This is just a waste of time, and you're not giving yourself enough time to beat him game 2 and 3 if you don't concede now. Because this is MTGO and he has his own personal clock, I'm like, let's run his clock as much as I can. So obviously you can see I'm just trolling. I know I'm in a losing position. Doesn't really matter. We can fast forward a bit. You can see it's just slowly getting even worse for me. But his clock is draining, right? I have 23 minutes and he has 15, right? Like I know for sure I can get this to game 3. So I just need to stall as much as possible and hope that he doesn't have enough time for game three. Um, so I just keep stalling, right? I'm like, okay, I drew the Emperor. What a champ that I am. Uh, I can't win this game. He stone brained like all my win cons, and there's no way I could come back. I just have to keep stalling. So eventually, I get him very low on the clock. Right, he's at 13 versus my 22 minutes. Um, and I'm like, okay, this is good. Yes, I posted the list that I played on the Twitter thing because it's already going to be publicly posted. So that's the list I played. You could, I think it's my pinned post. So here, yeah, you can see like there's no way I win this game. Like, it's just let's just keep going. But you can see, let's look at the top left here. Right? 8 minutes. I'm like, oh yeah, there's no way this guy beats me with that little time left. He has to either yield through everything or like just concede very early on. And here I have Proctor Tribal again. So I keep this because I have the natural farewell. And I'm kind of confident that um, I will be able to stall into farewell naturally if need be. So here, the best line here in this situation is to march the Elvish Mystic because Kiora is a big problem if it resolves on turn 2, but it's much less of a problem if it resolves on turn 3 because you have time to set up, and which is exactly what happened. If I didn't march that, he would have had to turn 2 Kiora and would have been able to probably accelerate his advantage even more slowly before I could set up. Because I already have 2 Proctors on the board and tons of pressure, I get to, kill his Planeswalkers slowly with 1/3s. And, I drew all my Proctors here, which actually kills the Karn. And next turn I can kill the Kiora. And he's not drawing much, but I'm not drawing much either. I'm not hitting my land drops. And he plays the Oath of Nisa, and I'm like, okay, you want to pay 8? Which is kind of funny. I think he just did it for the devotion, which is the correct line of play. And I counter that Kiora, right? Because even though I have Proctors, I can't exactly handle Storm the Festival because I don't want to deal with the flashback because of how much mana he actually already has. Oh, and no, that's not true. I know he got with the Karn a Cityscape Leveler. So I know that his win con now is just to try to get to 8 mana. So if I let that Karn resolve, that Kiora resolve, he would have gotten to 8 a lot quicker, right? And because I was able to stall and eventually find the Wandering Emperor, this Cityscape is not that big of an issue for me anymore because I get to just exile it and then he concedes. So then we have the game 3. And I have a pretty good hand, right? Like I have a bunch of interaction. I have undo inversion. It's not farewell, but it's a board wipe. And with Proctor, I know I can stall the game. So here's the line of play that I wanted to mention. I did this on his draw step, so he couldn't play it again. So I can kind of buy an extra turn of a lot of damage, and I did it to reduce his devotion because I need to try in this position, especially on the draw situation, I need to lower his devotion to a normal amount as much as I can. It's not like I could have answered the Karn with what I had in hand anyways. I drew the Lotus Field like a champ, which actually helps a lot. He ends up getting the Damping Sphere, of course. But in this situation, I don't really care because I get to kill the Karn and I get to just play like I'm regular blue-white. Even though I have the Lotus Field, it's not that big of a deal for me that he has Damping Sphere because now he can't use his Nykthos either, right? And I know I'm very confident in a sense to get to the undo. But I also had the March. So I end up marching that Damping Sphere. And I play my Teferi. And from here, it's like I'm the aggressor now, right? I have to do everything I can to stop him from trying to win. and he plays Storm here. So because Storm is literally the only card that you can actually Narset's reversal, but it's very strong, obviously. I do that over discontinuing it, right? You usually want to discontinuity Storm the Festival because then the Storm the Festival will get exiled, so you can't flash it back. But because I had Narset's reversal, this is even stronger, right? I get another Lotus Field and I get a Wandering Emperor to put me in an even better winning position. And now I have triple Proctor to stop all the ETB triggers. There's no line that he can have anymore to win this game. The Cure I ignore now because the ETB trigger doesn't matter. And I get to basically end the turn now and concede. So that was a long review. That was all 5 rounds. And as you can see, I was looking at my tiebreakers. I was like, oh, 62.5. I have pretty high tiebreakers. There's a good chances that I get top 8. And as you can see, I miss it by 0.25%. So basically what that meant was like one of my opponents who should have, that's a 1 win-loss difference. If one of my opponents won instead of losing, I would have been in top 8, that kind of thing. But in a sense, I can't exactly complain because you guys just saw my misplays in the 2 matches, and they were very big misplays, and they were primarily the reason why I lost those matches. So in the end, it's not on the tiebreakers, right? That's the luck factor. It shouldn't have even been tiebreakers if I won against that mono green, for example. And the Grease matchup is pretty fine, but there's not many decks that can beat the turn 3 Parhelion, and obviously Blue White Lotus is one of those decks that cannot beat turn 3 Parhelion. Mostly I learn from people explaining their misplays than people explaining their good plays. So thanks for doing that. Exactly, yeah. Like you remember your mistakes a lot more than your actual good plays because eventually your good plays become kind of like ingrained in what you have to do a lot of times. But the mistakes that you do, you'll likely never forget them. Like for now, for example, I'm never gonna forget that Cityscape Leveler has Unearth. And I'm never going to forget to like deluge if I have to, if that's my only line and there's no reason to hold it, right? So that was like, for example, and against creativity, for example, my big mistake was I should have thought about, okay, why is he playing big score? Obviously, in an open deck list environment, I wouldn't have had that issue. But I should have really just realized that big score equals worm all the time. How to saying, learn from other people's mistakes because life is too short to make all possible mistakes. Yeah, that's true. Exactly. Yeah, so that was. I'm just gonna drink some water because that was a long. That was a long speech. I hope you all learned a lot from this. Um, this was really something that I usually do only for my blue patrons, which is like the blue-white fanatics and connoisseurs. But I really wanted to demonstrate this here specifically because I felt these matches were very high levels of play of my opponents, not of me personally. But I think in some games you were kind of able to see how I did like a different line, and maybe it wasn't the exact line that you were thinking going through this video review with me. So you kind of see like how I'm playing differently, and I'm explaining why I do certain things. The other thing is, yeah, this is something that I cannot always exactly dedicate my time to, in general for the public because there are a lot of competitive events that I have to be factoring in. Like I'm going to SCG Cincinnati. I'm going here. I'll show exactly what's going to. I'm doing a team trio the upcoming weekend, and it's SCG Con Cincinnati. I'm going with two of my good friends, and I'm in the Pioneer seed, of course, because I can't exactly play Modern. Um, what I'm going to do though is I'm going to outline every match that I had in this main event as well, and see if there's any way for me to kind of like summarize important lines that I had each match. I hope I can do it, um, but without like actual video review. Like I guess the best case scenario is there's like a live stream and I get live streamed, and then I could go over the live stream when I'm back. Uh, do you have a list for the modern qualifier season? Like my modern deck list? Is that what you're asking, or um, yeah? So here I'm kind of hoping I can find a way to kind of like explain this. I don't know if Ring will still be around, but maybe. So yeah, so I'm playing at Pro Tour Barcelona, right, which is modern. Um, I'm not releasing my list right now for kind of like competitive reasons, right? A lot of pro players aren't doing it, and I have a team that I'm playtesting with, and I'm playtesting a lot myself. Um, I don't really want to give too much details on what I've been doing because of that, because I kind of want to keep my deck list under the radar. I am pretty confident with my list that I just made. The meta diff did kind of shift in a sense, but I'm still fine with the meta, I think, and think it's still, very. I don't think the One Ring is as good as people think it is. And the life loss actually matters a lot, especially against decks like Rakdos and even like Tron. Like Tron is extremely strong against four color because they can just ignore the One Ring card advantage and just make massive haymakers that like 3-for-1 or 4-for-1 or like crazy. Um, so I don't think One Ring is actually going to be that good at the PT, especially since it's going to be very heavily like you know everyone's going to play it. So in a sense, I'm kind of like playing around it by not playing it. But I don't know. I've tested One Ring. I don't like it. But then now I saw like other people playing One Ring. I'm like, okay, maybe I should test it again a bit more thoroughly. Play Mono Blutron. Yeah, that I'm not too fond about. I died to Sundering Titan. It's so mad. Yeah, like Sundering Titan is extremely strong. Um, yeah, the Sundering Titan is so good right now because of all the 5-color decks. And there's yeah, I'm doing this. So this is what the change I'm probably going to make from let's go to Pioneer deck list. I might actually go back to Censor. I'm gonna sleep through it and think about it. I'm really not sure yet because I really like Joint. So probably what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the Friday trial. Yeah, the trial here with my buddies. And if I feel like the meta is much more hostile or like much more aggressive, then I'm probably going to go to Censor. If I feel it's more like grindy decks, then I'm probably going to keep Joint Exploration. Cut the Lantern. Yeah, probably. That's probably not a bad idea either. It could probably add like a third March. I like the Lantern against Greasefang, but that's really all it is against. And March is also really good against Greasefang, so maybe there's that too. Um, I guess I like it against Phoenix too, but that's not really seeing much play. Uh, yeah, I guess I could keep it as one. I feel really fine with two March. I don't think I like having a third one. I tried three back then as well, and I didn't really like it. I feel it was too it's too much of a 1-for-1 kind of. You kind of have to have like more 2-for-1s in a sense. Um, Other than that, yeah, Tamio. very relevant against Rakdos, as you guys saw with the Rakdos Sacrifice deck. It bought me a lot of time, and I was able to convert to a win. How do you beat Greasefang without Graveyard Hate? Well, Farewell is kind of like your Graveyard Hate, right? Main board Farewell. And a lot of times what also happens is, because they don't interact with you much, you just go the Teferi discontinuity routes, and you just keep ending their turn and just trolling them a bit. I guess that's the best way to put it. And then you eventually farewell the board, and they have to recycle, right? They have to redo everything that they were trying to do originally. But yeah, like against Greasefang, you're kind of playing blue-white combo in a sense. You're just trying to like slow them down to the point where you can get to Fairy and discontinuity, get a big enough shark to block everything and stuff like that. You don't really care about Essica's Chariot, because if you have Strict Proctor on the board, for example, they have to pay 2 for the trigger. So that's kind of like a natural counter. And obviously the way you can really lose is a turn 3 Parhelion, because most of the time turn 3 is too fast. If it's like turn 4 or 5, you can usually answer the Parhelion in another way. For example, you can like Boseiju it, you could auto-wire it, you could discontinuity the Greasefang, for example, stuff like that. There's a lot more lines when you have more mana. And after side, it gets much easier, of course, with so I bring in Thought Distortion too, right? Because Greasefang, if you think about it, is basically a lot of non-creatures and barely any creatures. And it exiles their graveyard. So this is just like a finisher as well. Their creatures can't really kill you by themselves. They need the vehicles. So yeah, that's it. That's enough for me today. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope it was very informative. I'm very happy with everything overall, because 2 weeks ago I started playing MTGO again, and I had only 100 play points. And I got a bunch of cards, and now I have 1,400. So I get basically a lot. In 2 weeks, in 1 week and a half, basically, Thespian Stage is coming out in Arena, so I'm going to be jamming that a lot, because Arena is much cleaner to play, much faster to play than MTGO. So that's really nice. But thank you all for taking interest in, what I had to say. It's kind of like a lecture, and I'm surprised there were this many people that tuned in. But I'll let you guys all go. Is there anything else the deck is missing on Arena? No, so the only thing that was missing was Thespian Stage. And that's it. Now the deck is complete on Arena. You can play it all on Arena. You can finally copy Lotus Field with Thespian Stage starting next week. So yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna easily ascend to Mythic. I don't think it's gonna be difficult at all. So yeah, I'm gonna transfer you guys all to Anzid. He's one of the guys I like a lot and I follow, and he does a lot for like the MTG community in general. So see you guys.